Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Chris Richardson, President, General Counsel for BDB Solutions. I'm doing a Facebook Live today to answer any questions folks have. But before that, I just wanted to give a quick update on the travel pause and maybe some more information on the visa bulletin potential as well. I think I talked about this a little bit at the last Facebook Live, but the travel pause should be a pause. It should be lifting, we believe, soon. It was mostly put in as a pause because the administration is going to be coming up with a new public charge rule. For those of us who've been in immigration a while, we remember what the old public charge rule was like. So we assume that's coming back. And then once that's back, they should lift the pause for the 75 countries. And so the important thing to remember about the pause, though, is that it just pauses the end of the process. It doesn't stop people from applying, and it doesn't stop people from having the process moving along with the Department of Labor and also with USCIS. So it really is at the end of the process that the pause impacts folks, not at the beginning of the process. And so if you are thinking of signing up, I encourage you to do so, even if you're from one of these impacted countries, because one, we don't believe the pause will be forever. And then two, we also believe that the pause will be lifted. But three, and the most important is that even if you can still be a new client, you can still sign up, you can still be part of the BDB journey. We'll just have to wait for those folks at the very, very end of the process. And then a little bit about the visa bulletin. Yeah, I think we're all kind of disappointed that the numbers didn't move much in January or in December, really. Moved a little bit in December, but we were hoping for more movement in January than we got. Next couple of days, if not today, the new visa bulletin should be coming out, and I'll be curious to see any kind of movement. I would imagine that all the travel pauses are starting to have an impact actually on the numbers, and so we should see some movement with the visa bulletin, I would imagine today, if it's released. Probably, if not today, then probably this week sometime. It should be released in the afternoon. Usually released in the afternoons, so we should be seeing more movement. We hope with the visa bulletin, and just in general with the process and government and everything that's going on. There is a potential for a shutdown of DOL, but I think that shutdown should be fairly short, and it's not clear whether that's going to impact the I-140 USCIS filings. It's not clear yet, like how it'll be a partial shutdown, perhaps just based on DHS. But DOL will still move, and other parts of the business will still move too. Okay, so someone has a question about, can you apply with BDB Solutions from Europe? Absolutely. You can apply irrespective of what country you were born in for EB3 so if you're from Nepal, but you live in Europe, yes, you can definitely apply for BDB and start the process. The only two countries where we don't particularly take applicants is people born in mainland China and people born in India, just because the backlogs for those countries are just so long that it's hard to get an employer to sign up for that. But if you are from Nepal and you live in Europe, you can definitely apply for BDV. You can apply from BDV from anywhere in the world. In fact, we will be in Vietnam at the end of this month, the beginning of March, after the end of Lunar New Year. And we'll be meeting with current clients and prospective clients and explaining a lot about the EB3 process. We'll also be in Brazil in March as well, the end of March. And we plan on traveling and meeting with our clients and prospective clients all over the world this year. And so it's really important. But if you can't come out and see us, then we're definitely always available via chat, via email, and intercom messages as well. We encourage you, if you're a client or a prospective client, to reach out. Someone asked about the news on the immigration ban for the 75 countries. No news as of yet. It's still ongoing, but we suspect that in the next couple of weeks that it should be lifted. Really what they're waiting on is to finish the public charge rule. And the public charge is basically a requirement that if you come to the United States, you have to be able to support yourself. And so the Trump administration, the first time, wrote some rules around the public charge, and then the Biden administration undid those changes. So now the Trump administration is looking at bringing those changes back. But until they can get that rule written, they put this pause in place. And so really what we're waiting on is if that rule gets written, and once that rule is written and it's published, they should be able to lift the charge. Someone asked if you can change from EB3 to EB2. Yes, you can. Or rather, you can do multiple filings of EB2 or EB3. I don't particularly encourage that. I think you should probably have a really logical, strong reason for wanting to go from one to the other. But it does happen that people may be qualified for both. And so we do, definitely talk to a member of our team or talk to a immigration attorney. You can talk to us, and we can definitely help you navigate whether it's reasonable or sensible to move from EB3 to EB2 or to have two applications going. A lot of people will have applications going for themselves. Some may have applications for their other, like some will do EB2, but they'll have their spouse do EB3 as a backup, and then whichever one gets there first, and then they'll drop out of the other one. And so I think that that's something that a lot of people are trying to strategize over. I know a lot of families strategize over, who should apply for the EB2, who should apply for the EB3, maybe even the EB1. But legally, yes, it is entirely possible that you can apply for EB2 or EB3, or even do both, as long as you're qualified, obviously. And depending on the type of EB2, obviously you might need a sponsor for that. NIW, no, but with EB2, if you have a just regular old job, not regular job, but a job that qualifies for EB2, then yes, you can certainly do both, but you will have to pick one at the end of the process. I know there's a lot going on this month, not just Lunar New Year. Brazil, there's Carnival. Bangladesh is having its first election in many years, and that's a remarkable feat. But I do know that banks are closed and things are kind of paused right now there. But I also know that a lot of people in Bangladesh and the other impacted countries are fearful of applying because they're worried that with the travel ban, that it's actually a travel ban, but it's not. Again, if you're from Brazil or Bangladesh, it's not a travel ban, it's a travel pause, and it only impacts the end of the process and not the beginning or the middle of the process. We are seeing some movement in a positive way with the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor is taking a lot of steps to improve their immigration process and improve their ability to help clients move the ball forward. And so we're hoping that in the next few months, we'll see a shorter time frame from waiting on the DL labor certification to be approved than we're seeing now. Obviously, it's taking a very, very long time to get the labor certification approved, but the Department of Labor is very, very aware of that, thanks to our efforts and our government relations team's efforts to make them aware. And so we're seeing a lot of positive movement there too. Let's see here, some more questions. So yes, someone asked, is it worth applying for EB3? Even though you're working in Lithuania? Absolutely. No matter where you are in the world, I think it's always worth applying for the green card through the EB3 unskilled. I still think that it is the fastest and best path for the majority of people who are looking to immigrate and move to the United States, even with the wait. If your desire and dream is to live in America, the EB3 process is the way to do it. And the best way to do that is to apply, get in line, start the process, and then watch as the process moves. Like sometimes it's going to move slow, sometimes it's going to move fast. But it's always better to be in line. And I often say this, that I've never met anybody who wishes they had applied later in the process. Everybody wishes they'd applied early earlier than later. But you just never know, right? Like it's very, very possible that the process could speed up. You could see the retrogression shorten. You can see the Department of Labor, LC approvals move faster. You can see all of these things, and we've seen all these things. And so I highly encourage people to go ahead and apply now. LC approval times right now are taking 16 months for everybody, not just people from Nepal, but for everyone all over the world. LC approvals are taking about 15, 16 months. But again, we're working with the Department of Labor in the hopes that we can shorten that because we know that that is a very, very long process in and of itself, and that adds to the length of time in the process too. And so we're really working with the Department of Labor to see if we can shorten that. We're also working with members of Congress about passing the potential for a Dignity Act and also finding ways to get USCIS to shorten and improve the process as well. And so those are things that we're all working on our behalf in government relations and as a company to fight for our clients and make sure that they are being fully represented in Washington, despite all the things you're hearing and seeing going on in Washington these days. All righty. Let's see here. Some more questions. So someone asked if they signed a contract in February 2023, how long will it take for you to receive your green card or your green card, work permit, travel permit? If you filed in 2023, that depends a lot on the visa bulletin. Every month it's different. Sometimes it moves forward quite a bit, and sometimes it doesn't move forward that much at all. And so, again, right now, it's not necessarily taking 7 years. I assume it will be shorter just because we'll see the visa bulletin move forward a lot faster soon. But if you filed in February 2023, we might be seeing some movement hopefully this year, so probably in a year or two. I'll be in 2 years or so because right now we're in 2021 and 2023, February. So yeah, but again, that really depends on the visa bulletin, and it really depends on how fast things are moving with the government. Somebody asked, what did I mean by the travel pause? It will impact the end of the process. So what I mean by the end of the process is that if you are from Brazil or Bangladesh and you apply now, it doesn't have any impact on you because they'll still accept your application, they'll still process your application, they'll still move your application going forward. But it's the people who are at the end who've been waiting the 2-3 years who are just now interviewing for their visa interview. Those are the people that are impacted. And so if you applied and your case is current and you're from that country and you're overseas in that country, your case may not necessarily be approved right now. So that's how the pause impacts the people from the 75 countries. It isn't that you can't apply, you can still apply. It's that the people who are at the end of the road, the end of the process, right now can't get their visas, but they're still being interviewed. And I assume when the pause is lifted, this is what we did when I was in the State Department, when the pause is lifted, they will allow those people to get their green cards immediately or their visas immediately to be approved. And so the pause doesn't stop you from applying for the visa. It just stops the actual issuance of the visa at the end. And when you go to that visa interview in a few years, the officer is going to say that. Someone asked about the visa bulletin. Do I think it'll speed up? Yes, I do think it'll speed up eventually. This February will be a good window into how much. That in March, because those are usually around the times. And the way the visa bulletin works is, the State Department looks at their numbers throughout the world and they determine, well, we would be able, based on current capacity and based on current volume, to issue all 10,000 visas or up to 10,000 visas or all the green cards basically. And so when they think about that, they're like, okay, do we have enough volume that we're going to meet the 10,000? If they feel like they don't have enough volume to meet the 10,000, they'll move the visa bulletin forward. If they think they have enough cases from the old days that they can get all of those issued, then they will not move the visa bulletin forward. But eventually, a lot of those old cases are just going to be worked out, even at the rate that they're going. And so I would assume that you're going to see some movement with the visa bulletin, and soon. Let's see, if you're from so if you're from a chargeable born banned country, can you use your spouses? That's a really good question. I assume that you could, just like with any chargeable country, you can always do that. And I wouldn't see why you wouldn't. But I guess the real question would be, let's say you're at the end of the process and this comes up, should you do that or could you do that? And that I don't know. I don't know if the embassy or consulate would accept that. I think that they would say that, well, you had like a moment with the I-140-45 consular NVC to file for the chargeable or the change, and you didn't. But I would imagine it would be up to the consular official whether they would accept that or not. But again, that would be from people who are at the end of the process. If you're at the beginning of the process, or you're just now thinking of applying, or you've now just applied, it won't have any impact on your case. Let's see. Should it be a concern for an individual? If you're from Pakistan, I don't think that the pause should give you, should be the reason not to apply for the process. Again, I think the process goes through ups and downs. It changes. There's pauses, there's bans, there's things that come and move one direction or another. But eventually, pauses are lifted, cases move, and the people who applied early and the people who started it early always wish they had started it earlier, or even earlier than they had started. And so I wouldn't wait to apply till the ban or the pause is over. I would apply now and go ahead and get yourself in line, and get yourself in a position where your case is at least moving, so that, because the ban is not going to last, or the pause rather is not going to last 4 years, right, or 3 or 4 years. That won't happen. And so the pause will only last a couple of months. And so better to go ahead and start that process now than wait until a much later date. Let's see if a client, Just reading through some questions. If someone applying for EB3 unskilled is an F1 student visa status, you need to maintain your F1 status up until your case is current, and or some immigration status. Doesn't necessarily have to be F, but you do need a underlying status, and maintain that underlying status until your case is current. And then once your case is current and you've been approved for the EAD, you can then switch over to EB3. But if you're here on F1 status, or any status, legal status, then you have to remain in the United States, with the caveat that asylum is tricky. But if you're on TPS F1, you have to maintain that status up until your case is current. Let's see, if a client was arrested and later case was dismissed, it would depend on what you were arrested on. Like, is it a felony or misdemeanor? But you know what? It's probably better that you talk to an immigration attorney in private to talk through that. But in general, if your case is a misdemeanor, you haven't pled guilty, you can usually overcome the criminal eligibility, CIMT. But if you are convicted, or if you've had multiple convictions, or if you have done something that's worth 2 years in jail, then it'll be really, really tough to get your green card. But again, with specific issues like that, I always highly, highly encourage people to talk to an immigration attorney, talk to a member of our team, because it's really hard to judge just based on a Facebook message. And I wouldn't want to give you legal advice over Facebook, not that kind of legal advice over Facebook, at least. Something that's very, very sensitive, and something that you really need to talk to an attorney about. Let's see. Someone asked, is it possible that the ban will be lifted for some countries? Yes, but two things on this. Yeah, it's very possible that they could say, you know what, these countries ban is lifted, these other countries ban stays, or pause rather. I'm sorry, I always get those two. It really is like a distinction. A ban is one thing, a pause is another, and this is a pause. So yes, I do think that the pauses and bans actually could be lifted for some countries and put back on for others. But again, whether it's a ban or a pause, this questionnaire is saying they're waiting for their labor cert to be approved. This doesn't impact the Department of Labor. The bans and the pauses mostly only affect USCIS, Department of State at that final stage. The pauses only impact at the final stage. It does not stop your LC from being filed, and it doesn't stop your LC from being approved. Someone asked, you know, have there been any successful cases from Pakistan? Lots of successful cases from Pakistan. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I've known several Pakistanis. In fact, many of our earlier clients were mostly Pakistani and Bangladeshi, and we've had a lot of successful clients from Pakistan. And I encourage you to reach out to our team. They'll be happy to explain to you and point you into the direction of a lot of our successful clients who've been from Pakistan. And really, we've been successful all over the world. We've had over 1,800 green card approvals, and of course, 1,900 green card approvals from people all over the world. And so we haven't had like one country or another country where we haven't been successful. Now, some countries go through ups and downs, and that's usually just driven by who the visa officer is at that post. I was a visa officer, so I know. But overall, though, we always see post approving these visas at the end of the day, and Pakistan is no exception to that. So someone's asking if they're from Bangladesh, but they live in Sydney, Australia, and they're dual Australian citizens. Does it impact your case? No. It may impact where you interview, and that's something you want to talk to your legal counsel about, and talk to BDB about. You could potentially interview in Sydney, or you may go back to Bangladesh, but it doesn't impact you in that way. Someone asked if you're from Cameroon. Yes, you can 100% apply for EB3. No matter what country you're from, you can apply from it. As a company, BDB, we represent people from all countries of the world except for China and India, regrettably, and that's because the wait time is so long for EB3 unskilled for individuals from those countries. Let's see, someone's asking that. Someone asked, is there any successful story from Bangladesh? I really hope that somebody is reading these messages. We have lots of successful cases from Bangladesh. Hundreds of the people who've been approved out of the 1,800 green card approvals were from Bangladesh. I think Bangladesh and Brazil may be our number one and number two country, and Nepal as well is up there, and Vietnam as our top countries that's seen lots of success stories. In fact, if we haven't done a Facebook Live with someone from Bangladesh recently, and I hope we have, we definitely need to do that, because we've had tons of successful cases from Bangladesh, and we've helped hundreds of people from Bangladesh achieve their American dream and move to the United States and get their green cards. Let's see, someone asked, after gaining my EB2 NIW, can you do the AOS for me? Reach out to our office and let's see. It really just depends on your circumstances and your story and what's going on with EB2 NIW, but that is something that we could potentially do. Let's see. So if your PD was filed in August 2023, again, I don't know, because I would have thought that we would see a little bit more movement than we have so far. But I think February and March and April especially will be good indicators about how far there'll be movement in the visa bulletin or not. And so it's really hard to say at this point, just because the numbers, I think the State Department is waiting to see how the travel pauses are impacting their issuances of green cards. And that will then in turn impact how the visa bulletin looks. So someone asked, if you live in Malta and your country of origin is Cameroon, can you still apply? Yes. Again, it doesn't matter if really it boils down to your country of origin. If your country of origin is not India and it's not China, you can definitely apply for the visa, for the EB3 visa. Let's see, someone asked about filing taxes. I am the worst person to ask about filing taxes. I'm the worst person to give tax advice. I highly encourage you to talk to a tax attorney because I don't want to get you in trouble. The worst thing I want to see in the world is I provide some kind of tax idea, and then folks come back to me and say, "Oh, you didn't tell me that." So, so definitely not going to need tax advice from me. Let's see. Does AOS require interviews for everyone? Yes, normally. Although we've seen a few that have been approved without interviews. But generally, yes. There was a time, once upon a time, where it didn't, where anybody could just, you didn't even see interviews at one time. But these days, yes, it generally is required. Everybody has to go through an interview. Let's see here. Let's see, someone asked, like, so if the DOL process is still in place, what happens after that? If you're a part of the countries, your case actually still moves forward. Your case will still go to USCIS. Your case will still go to the embassy. It's just that, let's say that your case is current. Again, your case has to be current. And then 2, you have to actually be interviewed by the officer in the process, about to be interviewed by the consular officer. That is years from now. The ban or the pause will be lifted for sure years from now. This is a temporary pause. It's not like a permanent ban on people. And so once that is lifted, but yeah, if your case is approved by DOL, it goes to USCIS, no change. USCIS will still process your case. It'll still work on your case. It will get your case up until interview when your case is current, and you will be interviewed. And so even getting through the DOL process, great. USCIS is still going to process your case. Consular officers are still going to process your case. Your case is still going to move through the visa bulletin. It's just that at the end, the embassy cannot issue your visa. And note that that's just the embassies abroad. We've seen green cards approved for AOS cases within the United States. And so that really is for the people who are abroad, who are just now being interviewed. I see, and this will be my last question for today, but please keep asking. Members of my team are monitoring this, and they will definitely answer or forward those questions to me, or you can just ask me directly. Let's see, if a candidate country is on the visa pause list, can we still proceed? Yes, you can still proceed with filing the I-140 after the perm labor cert is approved. That's something that's really, really important that people need to know, is that yes, your case will move, it will process, the I-140 will process. You can even file for the 485. You can do everything up until the end of the process. And so really want to make that clear for folks. Okay, well, thank you all so much for this. I'm hoping next time I'm going to get a former USCIS officer or maybe one of the old field directors on board so that we can talk and ask questions of them. We'll also look at other ways that we can bring on more former clients just so that you can see and hear our success stories. But thanks, everybody, and have a great day.